Are you curious about bodies, pleasure, and possibilities? And what about curious about what others are up to on the planet when it comes to pleasure, sex, and play? Have you considered what pleasure can do for your life, your body, and your bank account? Do you know something magical, delightful, and out of this world orgasmic is not only possible for you, but totally available to you? If you're ready to be the magical, sexual, sexy beast you know you can be, and you just need the tools to get there, you're in the right place. Now, here is the host of The Pleasure Zone, sex, relationship, and intimacy coach and holistic health practitioner, Milica Jelenic.
Welcome, my sweet pleasure seekers. For those of you who saw this title, The Three Hidden Doorways to Connection, this does apply to everyone, but this will be geared towards men again. So in continuing the series of things for men, I think this is like the 6th or 7th episode I've specifically dedicated for men. I probably do a few more at some point, but we might take a slight break next week. I haven't decided what next week's going to be, but it might be a continuation of sorts about other things. I'm talking about this a lot because what I'm finding is through conversations with women that there are more and more times that there are men that they're in relationship with who choose never to be connected, who are living in a lot of fear, their nervous systems are so jacked that they can't even connect. And some of them are just narcissists. I'm not an expert in narcissism. I took psychology in university, but in no way am I qualified to say who is or isn't a narcissist. There are qualities, and I have to say that word is overused by far, especially with things like the diagnostics tools for actually figuring out if somebody is a narcissist. If we use those, the number of times people are actually diagnosed with narcissism is a lot less than what people would put out there in the world. You know, you could just have somebody who's a selfish and I'm just going to do a noise instead. Like I'm doing my own bleeping. Yeah, somebody could just be a selfish jerk and have a lot of qualities that are like narcissists. They might also have a lot of trauma that would create certain behaviors. So it's really hard to determine those kinds of things. That's a side note because I'm not an expert on narcissism. So what I am well versed in, I wouldn't call myself an expert. I have other people called me expert in things, but what I'm well versed in is understanding the nervous system, bodies, how they react to trauma and stresses, and what we can do to change that. So on this episode, so some of the things we talked about before is how to communicate, communication, curiosity, all my favorite C words. And in this one, we're really going to focus in on the nervous system and what some of the fundamental reasons of why connection might not be occurring, even if somebody has learned some communication skills or desires having that, but they just can't get over the hump or the lump that is some kind of block in being able to connect. So what if the reason why men don't actually open up or that they don't connect isn't actually resistance? Maybe it isn't even protection, but what if it's actually more about having and allowing men to be calm so they don't have to be on alert 24/7, always looking to find solutions, always looking for protecting somebody, themselves or somebody else. It's a lot of pressure. We don't live in the wild anymore. Well, you might, if you are living, maybe you don't have a home, or you don't have shelter. So maybe you are living in the wild. Your chances of listening to my show is pretty slim, but it's possible. So if you have certain things like shelter and food, even if it's bare necessities, and acknowledging that all of those bare necessities, your body will have the capacity to calm down because your basic needs for survival will be met. And then everything else on top of that is like a bonus. So we're going to find out what some other ways of creating connections would be, and why connection doesn't always begin with communication skills, although we did talk about those options as well. And it doesn't always mean that there's going to be emotional processing going on. Why I say this is because there are a lot of men who come to me who don't really want to talk, but what they do want to do is they want to get on my table, my body, my massage table, and get body work done. And they will connect with their body more, and they might open up and talk more when they get on a table. Some of those physical stressors are being relieved, and then their body can move better. So the what happens with bodies when they are in pain is that they're under stress, and that stress causes your body to go into fight or flight. Sometimes it'll go to freeze where you don't feel anything anymore, but usually goes to fight or flight. And in the fight or flight, your body cannot heal. Can't emphasize that enough. We talk about that all the time on here. So when your body is in fight or flight, it cannot heal. And so when a body gets to calm down by doing things like getting on my massage table, I don't do massage, guys. I do body work, which is a type of the body work I do is called the mitzvah technique, which is a type of somatic body work that aligns your spine from your skeletal system out through gentle movement. It helps the body to remember things like better postures and better postural habits. And through that work, bodies start to open up. And so the body calms down. And then, as a response to the body calming down, then the emotions are allowed to emerge. And when the emotions emerge, so do other things. And then the healing begins. So it's not always starting with the talk, you know. There are a lot of guys who, not a lot. I mean, you'll get a handful of guys who will want to go to therapy, or have been told they have to go to therapy, so they'll go and talk it out. But there are so many more men I find that are willing to get on a massage table, and then they'll talk it out because their bodies are no longer in stress. And they're also sometimes it's because they're lying down, they're kind of in a position of surrender. So they don't have like their hands up, their arms up. They're not sitting there with their arms crossed, legs crossed, all of those resistance stances. They're open. Their bodies are open, their heart's open, and they begin to open up. Women will do the same thing, guys, but this show, I'm specifically talking to and for men on this one. So what we want to do is find different ways to work with opening up and work with connecting. And looking at how we can build safety in the body first, how we can sense and measure freedom in so many ways. We'll talk about all of that. And then also the permission to be fully human, which includes things like emotion, expression, creativity, feelings, right? All of that. This is going to be a little bit of a different show, guys. This isn't like fully sex oriented, but this without connection, the sex sucks. We're just going to keep it simple. If you are not connected to your partner, it's going to feel like you're having sex with basically a masturbation sleeve. And if you are not connecting, if you care about your partner and would like to deliver some kind of pleasure, connection is key. And if you care about yourself and you would like to have better sex and be able to feel fully satiated, then connection is also one of the key components. So connection, communication, and curiosity, right? And consent. Talk about all these all the time. So we're going to talk about how we can do things, different things, physical things. We're going to do maybe some meditation. I don't know. We're just going to ride the wave of this show. It's going to be fairly interactive, I think. Just feeling it out. And we're going to play with different ways to be able to get your body to be calm. So have your nervous system be regulated so that you can feel and sense and have trust with the person you're with and be able to relax and get out of performance and just enjoy. So the more you can be out of performance and in relaxation and in enjoyment and in curiosity, which we've talked about, curiosity is a really big sign of intelligence. All of those things are going to help with erotic connection. This this is like the fundamentals, when we talk about other fundamentals, is like knowing the physiology of a body, knowing like where parts are and what things do. That those are key as well. But this is also really fundamental, important stuff. So if you're brushing this off and you're thinking and you're hearing at this point, and you're like, I'm like 10 minutes into this show and she hasn't even mentioned masturbation yet. Well, I just did, just for those of you who need to hear the word. It really is these are fundamentals. And if the fundamentals scare you, then you might not be ready for a relationship with depth. You might be, you might be a man baby, and that's okay. But if you are ready for a relationship of depth, with depth, that has more components than, has more components to it than you've ever had before, then you're going to be able to really enjoy your relationships fully. Enjoy yourself as well, your relationship to self and relationship to others. So we're going to talk a little bit about why do men actually disconnect? And just in your own thoughts, and if you happen to be a man, is like, just think to yourself, like, why do I shut down? Why do I disconnect? So what I've seen and what I've observed is men disconnect when they feel like they're being talked down to, belittled. Men will shut down. Men will shut down when they're told what to think and how to think. Men will also shut down when they don't feel respected. Men will shut down when they don't feel like they have a say. And men will also shut down because that they might feel like they've had too much responsibility placed on them, or that they are responsible for everything. So the responsibility of other people's feelings, other people's happiness, other people's progress in life, other people's everything, and then the responsibility of themselves as well. That's an awful lot of weight on the shoulders. And I see a lot of men come in who have shoulders that are like out of place, that are in pain, that are, you know, and emotionally where that comes from. And I had a really great teacher named Robert Tennyson Stevens. He passed away a few years ago, but he had a great way of looking at the body, far more interesting even than Louise Hay's way of looking at the body. And Robert Tennyson Stevens talked about the shoulders being where we carry burdens. And men who carry a lot of burdens do tend to have a lot of shoulder pain and also neck pain. So the shoulder pain is something that we can alleviate, and something we can encourage also to find the blessings and to be able to bring the blessings back in and to reclaim the blessings. So, just for fun, if you are one of those guys who does happen to get disconnected, feeling responsible for everything, having the shoulder pain from all the burdens, you can choose. So, if it's on your right hand side, you're going to choose to restore, and you say, I choose to restore the blessings on my father's side. I choose to restore the blessings on my father's side all the way back to divine masculine. Or you can just, you can just, I choose, well, I usually start with I choose to until it switches. But I choose to restore the blessings on my father's side all the way back to divine masculine. Or I restore the blessings on my father's side. I restore the blessings on my father's side all the way back to divine masculine. So that would be for your right hand side of your body. For your left hand side is I restore the blessings on my mother's side. I choose to restore the blessings on my mother's side all the way back to divine feminine. And and oftentimes those connections will also be with, you might find that the divine feminine will connect with all the women that you've ever known. The divine masculine will connect with all the men you've ever known as well. Not just the family, but it will include the family as well. And then you start to realize, holy cow, we're all family somehow. Somehow, somewhere, we're all connected. So if men if men disconnect, and this is just, playing around with ideas, if men disconnect because they feel responsible, what are some things that we, as the lovers of men, can do to help relieve the burdens? That's just a thought to play with when we go to commercial break. You are listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show, with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is The Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, sweet pleasure seekers. Today we're talking about 3 kind of interesting doorways to, I would call them like the 3 hidden doorways to connection. And one of those doorways we're talking about right now is just being able to unburden your lover. If you're a lover of men and you want to be able to assist them, one of the key things is to help take the stresses away. So in doing that, it helps calm their nervous system. And in calming the nervous system, it helps develop trust and safety, feeling safe. Men need to feel safe too. I could tell you that, boy, in the last probably 5 years, I've been on in a few different like networking groups, and I have met very few. I could probably put on one hand how many men are actually feeling safe. Their nervous systems speak to the fact that they don't. They get into resistance reaction. They get overly tempered. They have to prove themselves. They have to do the whose wang is bigger than whose, game, that sort of I make more money than you, that comparisons, a lot of comparisons that I think they think they're creating healthy competition, but all they're doing is just, it's immature. They're not really building each other up. They're just throwing out the wangs and seeing whose is bigger than whose. And it's more about the function, kids, than the size. Just saying, if you have a 12-inch wang and it can't do anything, then what's the point? All right. But if you have some other skills, fantastic. If you have hand skills, mouth skills, other body skills, doesn't matter if you got the wang or not. You got skills, got other skills. So just saying. All right. That was a whole other side note. So why do I care? Well, one question I think is like that I'm wondering to myself is like, why do I care about men so much? I think I do care about men. I care about women too. I care about society. I care about humanity. I care about people getting out of trauma and into pleasure. And what I find is that men are often overlooked. Men's feelings are overlooked. Men's need for safety is overlooked. It's assumed or something, or it's assumed that if men don't feel safe, they'll find a way to get safe. Not always. They haven't been always trained on how to do that. And not everybody's idea of safe is the same thing. Just because your door is locked to your house doesn't mean that it can't be burning on the inside and nobody sees that until it's too late. So I don't know if you caught that metaphor or not, but there can be a lot going on internally, even though you look calm on the outside. There, I'll just spell it out. So having your house on fire on the inside is the same as having your nervous system being basically having your sympathetic nervous system on overdrive. So now fight or flight is extreme. You don't feel safe. You want to disconnect because too many responsibilities. And responsibility without relief leads to collapse. It doesn't lead to presence, it leads to collapse. So responsibility, and that could be, there's a level of responsibility doing things like getting the chores done and blah, blah, blah. That's a little different than being responsible for being the problem solver, being the one who does all of the, we'll stick with problem solving because I think it's the umbrella, right? So find me solutions to A, B, C, and D. I need you to rescue me. If you're a lover of men and you're looking for a man to rescue you, that is a massive burden that you have just placed on that person. That is unfair, it's unkind, and it's not sustainable. Because why? Because responsibility without relief leads to collapse, not presence. So if you're looking for presence, then you need to personally become responsible for the things that maybe you can be responsible for. Or, are you able to some burdens can get hard. So as I was thinking about that, I was like, can you bathe yourself? And I thought, well, there are people out there who can't. And those burdens of having to look after a loved one who maybe has a lot of mobility issues or mental health issues, that is a massive burden. And those massive burdens can make a guy want to just disconnect and not be present. For one, most men want to be problem solvers. And if there is a problem that can look like it can never get solved, it can be very disappointing because you'll never get any of those happy hormone hits from satisfaction of seeing a resolution, right? So you don't get like the dopamine hit from a resolution being accomplished, or endorphins from like getting the rush of getting things on the go, right? So there's that responsibility can be incredibly difficult on the body. So men shut down first. They will shut down because they are overburdened. And we don't really know how to have these conversations that are in open ways without blame. We really are at a learning stage and phase in society where we're just learning how to be decent to each other. We had chivalry before, which was interesting, but chivalry is a lot of responsibility on the shoulder of the one being chivalrous. So what we want to learn is more about pressure, like pressure versus permission. So instead of putting the pressure on for somebody to be a performative person, to do everything in a certain way, to all the pressures that could be coming at someone. So permission to show up as they are and who they are when they are. Permission's a fantastic thing to be given and to give to someone. Permission for exploration, permission for communicating with their own words. Sometimes when I'm coaching people, I might hear what they're saying and I might rejig it a bit so that it actually matches what their feelings are. And then when they go to deliver that language to their partner, it makes more sense to whoever's hearing it, because some words can come across, some words can come out and they just don't sound right. They don't feel right. And then they often lead to fights. So being able to say the words from your heart that are true, that match the energy of what you're actually feeling, can be really helpful. Yeah, I was trying to think of some examples, but everything's evading my brain right now. So you can also show a lot of appreciation for any and everything that, that your partner does. And as you show appreciation, the thing is, most people just follow suit and will do the same thing. So we have, there's always things to do in a house, in a home. There's always chores to do, there's always things to do. And showing appreciation on a regular basis for mundane things. Like, there are days where I'm just doing the laundry because it needs to get done. And maybe my husband's out of the house, so he hasn't done it. He does the laundry too. And, there's many times where I'll say thank you for doing the laundry to him, or he'll say thank you to me for doing the laundry. So it's not just a one-way street, like, oh, wow, thank you. You're being such a good husband for doing the laundry. No, it comes back for me as well. Or I get thank yous for, cooking dinner. And, thank you for all kinds of things. Appreciation is amazing. I had a saying last week, and I can't remember what it is, but I was like sharing it with my kids' friends. That something to the point of getting more with appreciation than with like I can't remember it. I'll have to look back in a chat that has a million little chatty things in it. I think I said it last week on the show too. Gratitude and appreciate. Oh, gratitude is better than attitude. That was what it was. So yes, appreciation. Gratitude is better than attitude. My quote, my t-shirt, there we go. And being an invitation to your partner is so much more delightful too than being demanding. So when a person's had a lot of burdens placed on them and all the responsibilities, and the last thing they need is more demands. Do this at this time, in this way, blah, blah, blah. So an invitation would be a lot better. An invitation to, would you be able to blah, 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 blah. And then if they can't, then cool, let it go. Don't be like, well, I asked you nicely. So since I asked you, no, that's manipulation and that's being a biatch. So just because you ask nicely doesn't mean the person has to say yes, but you can still be kind about it. So there are times when demand might come up. And demand to me only comes up when you're dealing with man babies. And man babies often only ever hear anything or take action when there has been demand placed. And if they get scared, that's because they're a man baby. If they step up, that's because they're willing to grow up. You heard it here. So if you place a demand on somebody because they're being a man baby and you're like, hey, you need to step up here. If they do step up, congratulations, they're willing to grow up and get out of man baby. If they don't step up, that means that they're not willing to grow up. And then you have a choice, stay or go. It's up to you, because they probably are not going to be able to have a deeper connection when they're not willing to grow up. Good times. So again, me and my rants. So I think I'd actually like to do a little thing. We were talking about how burdens sit in the shoulders, right? So even if you're driving, even you can do this if you're driving, just while you're driving, holding on to the steering wheel, keep your eyes open, obviously eyes on the road, or even if you're just listening to me on the lying down, sitting down, whatever, just raise your shoulders to your ears, up and then down, and let them drop like really good. And then just raise them up, hold them, let them drop. Raise them up, hold them close to your ears, let them drop. So you're going to build tension by holding and breathe. And you can also do breath in with this too, if you like. So breathing in, breath hold while you hold your shoulders up, and then breath out, letting it go. So you can do that to help release some of those burdens from the shoulders physically. There are lots of other stretches to do, circular motions with the shoulders. I have like an entire series of exercises that are on video somewhere that if you are interested, you just need to message me. I will connect you with those videos. And if you happen to live within a distance of being able to travel or come and stay and have a session in person, I can reset those shoulders for you. So that is something that I do on a regular basis. And we have a little retreat center that you can stay at. All right, we're going to head to our next commercial break. You're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show, with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is The Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. So tonight we're talking about the 3 hidden doorways to connection. I feel like I've probably been talking about more than 3, but number one key thing is having your nervous system be regulated, having feelings of safety, calm, and when you're feeling safe in your environment, you'll also feel like you have some sense of control in your environment and your life. And control doesn't mean control over, control of, is like where you have choice, where you can do things really and not be necessarily judged or measured for your actions, right? So if you're in a space where somebody's constantly judging you and figuring out if you're good enough, smart enough, what will you think of me? If I do this, what will you think? Well, that's also a judgment. If you're also feeling like, that you're never good enough, like all of those are probably because you've been in the energy of judgment, self-judgment, judgment by others, that sort of thing. And as we eliminate that, as we start to clear that away, then the space becomes safe. And then you can actually connect with your partner. And then you move out of feeling like you're wrong all the time to being able to, where the space is neutral. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about feeling connection to each other. So we talked about why men often disconnect first. And we talked a little bit about how pressure and responsibility can be a huge burden on the body as well. And doing different things like physical exercises and breath work to start to shift that. So if you would like a breath work program specific for you and whatever you're going through, please connect with me. I am actually certified in breath work. I haven't put that up there yet, but it's true. I do have that certification. So if it's something you want, specific breathwork program for you, connect with me. I can create that for you. Happy to do so. So the other thing is that there is a difference between being needed and being desired. And I call this the Nanny McPhee effect. So if you've never watched the movie, go watch Nanny McPhee. So when Nanny McPhee first shows up, she's kind of rough looking. She's got a lot of warts. She's a little bit scary looking. And she shows up when she's needed. And when she's needed, the kids don't want her. And when the kids do want her, when she's there, and I'm probably going to get this slightly wrong, but when you want me, when you don't want me, but you need me, I'm here. But when you need me, but when you want me, but no longer need me, I have to leave. So it kind of always reminds me of the Nanny McPhee effect, because when somebody uh, wants you but no longer needs you, so she needs to leave when somebody wants you but no longer needs you. And the difference in relationships is that it's kind of the opposite, the inverse effect of the Nanny McPhee effect. So when you feel less needed, like you're absolutely crucial to somebody's breathing, it's a huge burden. Again, that's more of a burden rather than a blessing. Very few people want to be needed that much compared to being desired. Being desired is far more fun. I don't actually need you in my life, but man, am I ever grateful and happy and love that you are in my life. So I love having my husband in my life. I don't need him in my life. When he wasn't in my life, I survived. I thrived. He's a bonus. He's an addition. And I will tell him that, he's desired. I love having you in my life. Is far more different than like, I have to have you. If I don't have you, I'm basically going to die or drown, or my life is nothing without you. That's a burden. That is a huge, huge burden. And a lot of guys, I get it. If you're running from that, I get it. If somebody needs you that desperately, I get why you're running. And how much more fun is it to be desired than needed? So being with somebody who already is a grown-up, who's responsible for their own self and their own life and their own feelings and their own satiety, which is like fulfillment, being filled, emotionally filled, satiety. I love that word. It's like a word that you don't hear people say a lot anymore, but it's one that I see in so I read tarot cards, and it's for years. And one of the tarot decks has the card satiety. And I love when it comes up, because at first when I would get it, well, I pronounce it satiety. I think some people might call it satiety or satiety, or I don't know. Maybe there's different pronunciations. I have no idea. Anyway, fulfillment. I love the idea of fulfillment. It's lovely. And it's like where your cup is not only filled, but it has enough to go to other people. So that's where, when you have that in your life, and then you're walking into a relationship with somebody else who also doesn't need you, but desires you, fantastic. When you have two people, well, I don't know if, I'm going to take you guys all the way back to the days when the Celestine prophecy came out. And that was one of the first spiritual books I read, I think, other than maybe the Alchemist, maybe. So the Celestine prophecy, in it, there's a little blurb on relationships and being whole and coming together as two whole circles rather than two half circles trying to fill each other, become one whole. So the two whole circles are where you don't need each other, but you desire each other. Where you're two half full circles, then you actually need each other to fulfill each other, but you'll never be totally fulfilled because your circle isn't filled. So until you feel fulfilled, until you are feeling emotionally connected, and to me, that also is spiritually connected. So if you're feeling like there's something missing in your life, you might want to check into, is that the spiritual component? Sometimes you've got the spiritual component, but you might not have the emotional component. Sometimes you have those, but you don't have the physical component. So it's important to have an integrated life and have all those aspects be part of it. But a lot of times what I have to say is that people are not putting their faith in something bigger than them, like the universe or anything. They're not acknowledging that there's something bigger or greater that they can connect with, they can have a relationship with. And what happens then is that life can feel burdensome because all of it's on your shoulders and you don't have anybody to, or anything to count on as, um, as your greatest companion and your greatest relationship. So yes, I just went a little spiritual on you there. And I think, and I know that it's so important to have those components in order to feel fulfilled. And then when you don't, and you're trying to fill a hole, something's missing, you need to find out what's missing and fill that in you first. If you're sad and lonely, you need to find out why. And then you need to fill it. And it's never about one person filling that hole, because that one person can never fill the hole. They can try and then they can die, or they can walk away and your hole will be empty again. So you need to have that hole filled so that even if something happens to them, you have a core central thing, belief in something that you can go back to. It's also something they talk about in like 12-step programs, right? Having faith in something that's bigger than you, surrendering to a higher power. Without that, we truly have a hard time existing. And yes, it can sound all woo, like, oh, she's sounding so religious. It's not that, guys. It's that there's a reality of how humanity operates. And without certain components, it's like you're missing a cog in the whole mechanism. And if you're missing a cog in the mechanism, it's not going to run properly. You need the cogs, you need the spiritual, you need the physical, you need the emotional, you need the intellectual. There's so many cogs. We need them all. They're all important. And if you're missing one, then you don't feel fulfilled. And then you end up in these relationships where the burden might lie on you to fulfill somebody, and that will probably make you want to run away, not connect. So feeling desired rather than needed, and just having somebody there because they really love having you in their life, will help you feel more connected or desire for greater and deeper connection, because they don't need you. They just want you there. They just desire having you there, and they really enjoy having you in their life. Very different energy. Do you get that? Yeah. So another thing that can be a little bit tricky too is doing things like thinking you're going to help them become a better person. And here to help you like step into all your true potential. You're not your lover's facilitator, I don't think, unless you have an interesting relationship with the people you facilitate. You're not your lover's facilitator. So if you're finding that, you know, you're trying to help or encourage them, it can sound a lot of times like you're correcting. So encouraging, even like, oh yeah, you should really go out and try and find some more friends. Well, that's like correcting them, saying that they don't have any, and that, you know, there are ways that you can be with there are ways that you can be with your partner that is far more kind than trying to so-called help them. Unless they've actually asked you for advice or information or feedback, or want to share something with you, then the fact is they're probably not asking for your opinion on anything. And you giving the helping or encouraging, like, maybe we should do a diet together. That will sound like, hey, you know what? I think you're overweight. You need to lose weight, but I'll do it with you just so that you do it. It's not cool. So can we just, instead of correcting each other, be a bit more of an invitation to learning about each other, be a bit more willing to just wait, patience, wait and see what the person has to ask us about, or to invite us into, to see if they even want anything from us. They might not need anything. And if you're somebody who needs to be needed and you're with somebody who doesn't need you, you're going to feel very sad, lonely, and unloved. But if you're somebody who doesn't need to be needed and you just are really excited about being desired, then I think you'll be okay with somebody who doesn't need you. So let's get out of our heads for a minute and get into our bodies, because that's actually really key to one of the ways to connect. And we're going to head to the next commercial break. And when we do, I encourage you to just keep a really steady breath going. A breath in for 5 through your nose, nice and deep, watching your belly rise, and a breath out for 5, watching your belly like compress and go down. And just spend the next commercial break just being present, breathing, connecting to yourself, and starting to ask yourself some of those questions, like, especially around being needed and desired. Do I prefer to be needed, or do I prefer to be desired? Out of curiosity, and like, what is it? In what way do I desire being desired? In what way do I need to be needed? Yeah, play around with that. So we're going to head to the next commercial break. You're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show, with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is The Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@MilicaJelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. Tonight we're talking about the 3 hidden doorways to connection, and looking at some of the ones that we don't often talk about. We talk about things like communication, knowing what your likes are, sharing what your likes are, finding out what works for you and what works for the other person. These are things that we usually talk about in coaching. And some of the things that I do like to get into as well is get into your body, know you. And I've had a few clients before who have like complete resistance. I think they just like giving me money, but anyway, complete resistance to actually looking at themselves, and complete resistance to breathing, which is a funny one. There are a few, and I actually, I don't know, recently. Anyway, yeah, there's been a few who like, I'll start with breathing work with them, just get in their body, and it'll be like 3 breaths in and they get sidetracked and they just can't. And that resistance to being present says a lot. So what it says to me when somebody's resistant to being present is that they're really afraid, and that fear is deep, and that fear is probably something like, maybe they really don't want to be in their body because maybe that body's had a lot of abuse. Maybe that body's had verbal abuse, psychological abuse. Maybe there's been physical, sexual, all kinds of abuses that have happened to that body. So taking those few minutes to even get connected can be overwhelming. And for a lot of guys, they don't even talk about the abuse. They don't want to. They don't want to acknowledge it. They just want to fix whatever's going on in the relationship right now. But guys, everything that's going on with you right now is a reflection of things you have not healed, things you haven't worked on. And I'm not saying you have to heal them all right now before you can have a relationship. What I am saying is, through your relationship, you can choose to heal. You can choose to grow. You can choose to connect, and you can choose to connect deeply. And that's all up to you. So when choosing to connect, what are some of your favorite ways? Like, do you like to breathe with your partner? This is for the guys who, those hidden doorways, when we're going to look at how do we get you to be more present, is breathing with your partner something you'd want to do? do you want to play with different things like touch? How to touch? There's so many different ways to touch. And what if it's okay if your partner guides you with touch? Like, are you okay, guys? Are you okay with your lovers telling you how to touch them? Like slowing down, going in this direction, maybe going in both directions, going in one direction. I'm somebody who likes having touch that's very slow from like my neck down to the base of my spine. And that kind of like slow touch can have my body relax in like less than 5 minutes. And then I am so freaking present. And that in itself is a turn on. And so it can be that simple. It can be that simple. And then if you are somebody who's willing to do that with your partner and willing to receive the feedback of somebody telling you what they like and then following through, not having your ego attached to it, not making it the burden for you to have to figure out all the answers and solutions, and just being willing to ask for the feedback and then hearing the feedback. Are you okay with that? Because if you are in for a treat in life, because you are the kind of guys who are you're the kind of guys who become men, and you're the kind of guys who have better relationships than people who aren't willing to do that. So, there's so many things that we can look at that can assist you in being able to feel not only more connected to other people, to your partner, to the world. I'm gonna bring my dad up because I, talk to my dad a lot, but he's very funny. So he's about to turn 88 in a couple of weeks. And lately he's been doing a lot of self-reflection. And I think that does come with age, but he's been doing a lot of self-reflection. And then he's like, it's you changed me. I think about things. I'm like, okay, Dad, sure. And one of the things that he's done in the last few years is that he said this today. He said, the more he notices things, like he started to realize that he really was bummed out that he never had a cat in his life. He's so cute. He's so random. And I was like, well, why? He's like, well, before I used to be kind of rough. And like, he was a guy who would just, he was part of a hunter and angler society. So he would go out and kill things and eat things. And now his sympathies have grown, and he's actually become softer, and he doesn't want to harm things, and he wants to connect with things. And he realizes that he's actually deeply connected to things, and that he wasn't doing things consciously. And he's like, I'm thinking more now. Think about what I say. I think about how I affect people. Like, he's, it might have taken him a long time, but he's growing up, which is an amazing thing to see. And that, to me, that gives a lot of resolution, especially in later life, if it's something you haven't done when you're younger. Think about if you could do those kinds of things and realize that you are connected to everything, and how your gentleness can be such a great way to express yourself. You don't have to be rough to show that you're a man. You can be kind, and you can do all these things that you didn't do for the 86 years, 7 years before that, but you're doing it now. But if you could have done it even when you were younger, think about all the years you could have of just really enjoying and having life in a very much more deeply connected way to all the people that you know, whether it's yourself, your lover, your relationship to your God, your relationship to friends. All of it can get so much better. And it's really coming down to just knowing are you in stress? Do you react from a place of stress? When you react, do you disconnect? If you do, are you willing to learn how to do things differently? Before I leave, I just want to remind you guys to head over to Apple Podcast, iTunes, whatever those are called, iTunes, and go search for The Pleasure Zone. And if you could go give me a 5-star review, I would so love that. Go love, comment, share this show as much as you can. I appreciate all of your feedback too. Send me an email if you like. I love getting emails and feedback. If you have show ideas that you want to share too, I'm happy to take your suggestions. In the meantime, guys, stay tuned in and turned on, and have a great week.
Thank you for choosing to listen to The Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic. We'll return next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain Time and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be